friend is Pat Sloan here. Today is Tackle It Tuesday, and we're going to tackle a project of getting a binding on. I'm going to give you some just little hints and things that I do while I'm putting my binding on. But first of all, one of my Tackle It Tuesdays was to put the binding on the second Ode to the National Parks. So there it is. I'll get my body out of the way. There we go. There we go. You can see the whole thing. Turned out so pretty. So pretty. Those colors to me are ones that are kind of universally loved. I think most people like blue, except for if you were my mother-in-law, she didn't like blue. But I'm going to keep this one in case I need to give somebody a hug. It just happens sometimes. You have a friend, somebody in your neighborhood, maybe in one of your social groups that just needs a hug, and this is the quilt I'm going to keep for that, so that I can have one that I can give to a person. It's got a beautiful backing on it. Let's see, here we go. So I didn't have enough of that floral. Whoops, let me just go over here. So there wasn't enough of the floral. I didn't have enough to do the whole thing. So I've got a white on either side. But I do, I think it's nice to have a piece like that we can just right away know, okay, we can give this to somebody, particularly if it's somebody you maybe don't know real well. I just think that one's very universal. Okay. The other thing we have today is a scavenger hunt. Yay! I am going to assign you, the scavenger hunt is to share and show your thimbles. And I'm going to talk to you about my thimbles. When I first started quilting, most of the people I hung out with did applique. And with applique, you don't have to have a thimble, but you end up pushing the end of the needle with your finger a lot. And if you're a hand quilter, you do the same. So it tends to like chew up your skin, and it's just not very nice. So thimbles are something you got used to wearing. And I have a collection, because what I've also learned with working with hanging out with a lot of applique people back in the day, hand applique people, is that your fingers change. Whether the tips of your fingers might become smaller during the colder weather times. When it's humid and hot, they might swell up a little bit and be a little bit bigger. And so most people ended up having a couple of thimble sizes. I also found that for myself, I like to have nails, like, that aren't cut blunt. So I have to have an open end at some way or shape, so that my nail can, I don't have to cut my nail, down, always short. So let me just show you. I've got two containers here. I'm going to show you because I don't normally keep them all in here, but I had to hunt around to find the ones that I kind of have tried and used. Okay, this first container is for the pieces of English paper piecing, and the Grandmother's Flower Garden is the one that I have in here. And I've always thought these containers were just so cool. You open it up, you have all of your pieces, you have your papers, you have completed pieces in different colors. And let me first show you, before I go any further, what it makes. This is my container of what I'm doing. I found that I really prefer to just make the Grandmother's Flower Garden and put it on a background square. And so that's what I'm doing. There'll be mostly this lighter color, the lighter colors, and then the darker centers on this gray. And who knows, I might just end up soon being relative, going through and just finishing up kind of what I have. Maybe because there's a lot of red, maybe I'll do a few more red. Maybe I'll end up making a table runner or a small wall hanging, because I don't have that many finished. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then here's one in progress. Whoops, 5, 6, one in progress, and a bunch of the ones already made up in there. I was doing them from mini charm packs, which are 2.5-inch squares. This happens to be a lot of them are from that line from many years ago that my friend designed. And then there's a few other pieces, of course, in there, but red, gray, and off-white. But I had kept a lot of the thimbles in here because I was using them to do this. So let me get them out and we'll talk about them. Because primarily I used metal thimbles. But then I sort of transitioned and tried out. A friend sent me, Suzanne, that helps us here, sent me the silicone one, and then I ended up trying another silicone one. So let's take a look. So first of all, this is the type of thimble I would normally have been using. I used for many, many years, which has, one, it has dimples. That's all these little dots, you know, whoops, there. See all the indents? That's what the needle sort of, you poke the needle into one of those. So there's a lot of them, so you don't have to have just one, you know, you don't have to try to be perfect. It also has the opening. I wear this on my middle finger, and it is too small now. It is too small. Maybe, you know, this is the winter, you know, so I think after I broke my wrist, my hands just changed a lot, and so that is too small. I also have this one, which I used quite a bit, and it is too big, but it's only a little bit too big. So you know, when you're wearing it, it should not come off like that. You should be able to put it on and move your hand around and do things, and that's how you get used to wearing it. You put it on, and then you walk around and you do things. And you eventually don't even know it's there, and people will forget it's even on. I ended up buying this one at an antique store. They had a whole basket. I mean, they were very inexpensive, a whole basket of thimbles. And I just went through and found one that fit. And this is called like a traditional tailor's thimble. And what I like about it is that it's a little less structured and form-fitting than these. So it's a bit more forgiving. It also has notches all the way around. So that one works really, really well for me. So this is my go-to. But then I've also tried the silicone, which work really well. They don't poke through like I thought that they would. And then I even have this softer one because, you know, it's got Hello Kitty on it. So there we go. Cute, right? And then this is another one shaped with that, you know, way here. And then the dots. I tend to push from my side, so I need dots on the side. Okay, so you're going to show your thimble today. If you have a collection of them, just take a picture of them together. You can, you know, put them down and just take a shot and share us over at Quilt Along with Pat Sloan. We would love to see your thimbles. That'll be super, super fun. And if you have a story about any of them, maybe they're family members, anything like that, we'd love to hear about it. Or you could just tell the story here at YouTube. Or at my fireside chat if it's just the story, not, it has to be like, you have to show the thimbles in the quilt group. Okay, now let me show you the other big tackle of Tuesday. I got the Pear quilt came back, and it got binding on it. And here are some things that I do when I'm processing the binding. All right, I'm inserting this because you need to know that on Thursday, Friday, maybe Saturday, my website might be down. I love to make quilts because we have to do a major behind the scenes technical work, and in order to do that work, it has to be down, and that's and there's things behind the scenes, but hopefully it'll only be like a 24-hour thing. So on Wednesday, you should download your pattern. It won't be available then until it comes back up. I'm not going to put it anywhere else. It's just too much effort and work and to make everybody understand. So, you know, get it Wednesday, get the block Wednesday on Wednesday. Otherwise, you might have to wait because I don't know what time on Thursday it will be out of service, but it will be, and it has to be. So this is just a little note and a reminder. We will hear this reminder again tomorrow, this exact same one, and then I have a in-video reminder on Thursday. Here is a really big sneak peek. Upside down is what it is, but I can't show you yet. It's for a project that's kind of a secret right now, but I'm using some of my new Tiny Secrets because I've got some pre-fabric. You know, the fabric's not in the stores yet, or it will be very, very soon, but I have some early piece of my older fabric. This is Tiny Secrets, and then I went through my stash getting some other fabrics, and I can tell you I forgot how much fun it is when I can pull fabric where I don't have to use things that you can purchase because I'm going to write a pattern for it or something like that. So this is a challenge piece for something. I'm not telling you yet what it is, but because you're here watching my videos, you get to see. Now the dilemma is I really want to put the binding on the pears. Okay, and I've just laid this out. So what I'm going to do, this is my Gratitude and Grace backing. I'm going to just pick all this up and I'm going to sit it on the floor. That's my auxiliary table. I could go take it to the dining room, I guess, and put it on the dining room table. Maybe I'll do that. And then I can put that binding on and then start working on this. So I just had a thought here. I'm working with the Baby Lock Solaris. So these are machines that have a lot of automation, they have a lot of computerization, and one of the things that it does is it does some tension control based on the thickness of what you're working with, so that it will kind of adjust what's going on. And what I found is, because I use the Warman Company's, their 80/20, which is a fairly, you know, tight, kind of, I wouldn't say thin, but I would call this average. So it's not fluffy, it's a non-fluffy batting. And then I like to have it, you know, pretty well quilted so that the edges are pretty flat. You know, this is not very much here. And I do not need to have a walking foot. That's where I'm going with this. I do not need a walking foot to put on the binding, nor when I flip it over and do the front side. I do use an open toe foot because I can see better. Normally I stitch with a guide, and the guide is just too, it gets in the way a little bit. You know, this guide I use when I'm piecing. That is not good for this. But I like the open toe because it lets me really kind of see where I'm at, and I eyeball the 1/4 inch. I cut with a 1 1/2 inch strip, single binding. That's how I like to do it. I've always done it that way. I have done double binding. I prefer this just because it's less bulky. That's the main thing. So okay, I just thought that'd be a little tip, that if you are working on a machine that's a bit more advanced with a lot of computerization, then try this without your walking foot. See if it works for you. Another observation, when I have a stripe binding, I do the join. I do the join here straight across. There. See, straight across. I do not, let me flip it over, I do not do an angled join because I actually meet it up so that I have the alternating colors of the stripe. They may not be perfect, like this one's a little skinny. I'm okay with that. You could work to make it very perfect, but if I have that angle, then it's possible the stripes are off. And the reason why you do the angle is so that you sort of distribute that seam allowance across, which a lot of people like to do, and I will do it for anything but a stripe. On a stripe, I go straight across, and it really doesn't make a lot of difference, and it makes it look so much nicer. You can't even, you know now that one's skinnier, but for the most part, you don't even notice that. To join the end on a stripe and keep it as a vertical seam, I'm sure a lot of you do this. I have one side, you know, it's all the way back to here, but I will just fold it over. Basically, it's a wrestling match because it's a pain. It is a pain. So the other one, I will try to keep it as flat as possible and get it right to there, and also do a fold. And then I will pin, I can't do this one-handed, but I will take this and then I will pin that and then take it over and sew the seam. I do have this extra, I made more of this, and I'm going to keep this binding. I may, because, you know, the stripes are so great. Maybe I have a small project I can use that on. Okay, let me do this. Here it is sewn. You can see the seam. I'll cut this part, this bigger piece, and actually attach it here. The other piece I cut off, I put there. So what's it look like on the other side? So it's really tight. I could have fiddled with it a little bit, maybe just pulled it a little bit tighter, but you know, whatever. This is what it'll be. At least there's a little bit of white to distinguish, so it's not like a super thick green right there. That I wouldn't have liked. Thread color, since I'm top stitching, it actually is not my favorite thing to top stitch a stripe because of the two colors being high contrast, but I do it because I'd rather do that than spend my time doing handwork like this. I haven't really liked that kind of handwork for years. You can go with a light green, I can go with a dark green, or I could go with a cream color. So if I do a dark green, which seems like, oh well, or a green that may be matched really well with this green, maybe so it'd be just a tiny bit lighter. It is pretty dark on the white, right? It's pretty dark on the white. Even if it were just a little bit lighter, it would still be pretty noticeable on the white. So let's see what the white is. How does that look on the green? So here's the white on the green, and that's much better, right? Can you just tell right away? That white on the green is a lot less. Let's look at them side by side. Okay. Let me get that up there. Hold on. Just from this view, which do you see more? I see the green. The green stands out. The white kind of blends in. Now I'm going to try this lighter green, which is darker than the white and lighter than the green of the stripe. And let's see what that does. Here you go. The darker green is the less, this is my last choice, because it is just way more obvious than the white or the light green. And I am using 50 weight Aurifil thread. You know, I have thread collections with Aurifil. If you want to get a little collection box, the link will be in the description box below, or you can go and get big spools. These are like this is the big spool, which has been, of course, sewn down a lot. Look how much is missing. It comes all the way out. Okay, so this is a no-brainer. We're going with the light green. The backing for this is cream with a lot of flowers and things. So I am going to go with the cream thread. Once again, because I'm using a little bit higher end machine. Okay, it is a high-end machine, but it does a lot of tension control for me, and I have no problem with using a different thread color on the back. It does not pop up to the front. You need to test on your machine your tension to be sure that if you use two different thread colors, you're not seeing the other thread color pulling up, which is a tension issue, you know, to the front. Okay, so the cream, now I will not get it right in the ditch everywhere. To do that, you need to be sewing your binding right where that seam is. You see, you sewed your binding. There's the seam for the binding, right there. And when you pull this forward, you want to keep this like just a 1/4 inch past that seam, or not 1/4 inch, I'm sorry, just like a fraction, and then sew so you're kind of on the line. I don't worry too much about that because it'll come over here and I'm fine. There you can see how I get close to the edge, but sometimes I'm not as close, and Hero's just a little further away. So, you know, that's okay for me. There are methods that will do this that get you much closer. Maybe someday I'll learn those. Maybe not, because this is fine for me. And since I'm using the cream color on the back here, it's totally good. Totally good. One more thing I thought about, if you have been sort of jumping onto the back here where you're actually stitching on the binding on the back side, you can hear that when you're stitching. It'll have a deeper thump and it might actually feel like you're going through more fabric. You can see this happen here for me. I could all of a sudden hear it a louder, like, you know, machine noise, and it felt like it was thicker to go through, so then I adjusted and got back off. Now this doesn't bother me at all. I know some of you, this would make you insane, and this, you know, you have to deal with that yourself. This doesn't bother me at all. But it's just a thought. When you listen to your machine, it tells you a lot. And I know that I work that way. I like to hear what's going on, so I'm not running a lot of other things, sound things. I have a little music in the background, but I do like to hear it, and this is my normal sound. And I'm going to go up and see if you can hear too. I'm going to go up onto the binding. This is for science, for research. Do you hear it's louder? Yeah, I've pulled a little bit here, but I did go up onto it. Hold on. So here's where I purposely went up and over. I'm probably going to have to pull that out. That will make me nuts. But you can see on the back, I only went up a little bit, but the sound changed when I did that. So here's the thread where I started again. I just ripped out and then tied a knot on the back, and then started just a little bit next to it, and then stitched on a few of the stitches from before. That way I get started again. Greg's always saying, my husband Greg is always saying, yeah, we quilters, we could be car mechanics because we listen to our machines so much. And if you're not doing that, you probably should be. You should be kind of listening to what your machine is telling you. And it's all done. It's all done. Let me just move the chair and I will scroll you in here so that you can see it. See. Look at that. You can see the quilting on there. There we go. Look how awesome that is. I love it. It's got like leaves and swirls. It looks very organic, which I think is perfect with this. Look how wonderful that is. Okay, so you can see there's the binding on it. So cool, so cool. If you did the Pear quilt, show us at Quilt Along with Pat Sloan. Also, you can see over on my monitors, I am celebrating the week up to St. Patrick's Day. I don't have a video on St. Patrick's Day, but I'm going to enjoy this all week through next Monday of St. Patrick's Day. All right, let's see your thimbles. Let's see them. Let's see your thimbles. And if you are doing, at the same time, if you're doing some sort of English paper piecing, share that along with your thimble. That would be so cool to see. It's sort of fun. Like, I'm taking this to my next sewing group because we're going to be talking about everybody. You know, it's like it's fun to have a little theme. Even if you're a small sewing group, have a little theme. So everybody bring this for show and tell or talking or whatever. So I'm going to bring all of mine. My friend Ann had hers, I think the other month, and it's always fun to see because she has a big container like this with the one that she's working on, and she's put a lot of it together. All right, my friend, I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here in the Sloan Zone. I will see you online.